Part 113. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 1121. Chapter 1121. Jun Chennai and I had a kissing scene. Yu Lingfeng, Yu Lingfeng. Xia Ying called several times tentatively, but Yu Lingfeng was still asleep and showed no reaction. Xia Ying reached out and pushed, and Yu Lingfeng's eyes moved slightly. Yu Lingfeng opened his eyes, and his usually sharp eyebrows seemed much softer at this moment. Yu Lingfeng, what's wrong with you? You feel so cold, are you sick? Yu Lingfeng frowned slightly, then sat up, suddenly feeling weak all over his body. Yu Lingfeng held his forehead with his hand and took a breath of cold air. Why did I fall asleep? I don't know. As soon as I came back, I saw you sleeping on the sofa, and I wanted to cover you with a blanket, but I realized that you were so cold. Xia Ying knew that Yu Lingfeng's physique was different from hers, but his current body temperature was also different from usual. How could he be fine when it was so cold? Huh, it's better now. Xia Ying put her hand on Yu Lingfeng's forehead. She wanted to see how he was doing, but unexpectedly found that Yu Lingfeng's body temperature was slowly rising. I'm fine, maybe I've been a little tired recently and my body is a little disordered. Yu Lingfeng comforted Xia Ying. Xia Ying was doubtful, really? Yu Lingfeng nodded, his eyes firm, and Xia Ying was no longer confused. Then I'll get you some soup to warm yourself up, you were so cold just now and you can't recover for a while. Xia Ying stood up as she spoke. Yu Lingfeng had a faint smile on her face, but as soon as Xia Ying turned around, the smile on Yu Lingfeng's face fell. Even his own body temperature is now disordered, and his physical condition is reminding him step by step that the return date has arrived. But Yu Lingfeng was still thinking of a way to solve it, and he absolutely couldn't leave. What if he really leave and never find a chance to come back? He promised Xia Ying that he would not abandon her, so he must keep his word and not leave. While Yu Lingfeng lowered his head and meditated, Xia Ying had already brought a bowl of soup over. Here, drink it while it's hot to warm yourself up. Yu Lingfeng took it. The soup was just right and very hot. Yu Lingfeng drank slowly. Xia Ying just stared at Yu Lingfeng motionless. Yu Lingfeng has a really special taste, and he does not reject the taste of soup at all. When Xia Ying was young, Luo Xian would make soup for her every time she caught a cold. Xia Ying never refused to drink it because she felt that the taste is too astringent. I was really forced to do it, so I had to drink it with sugar. Xia Ying was thinking this, and suddenly she missed her parents. She hadn't seen them for a long time. During this period, Xia Chuanhai and Luo Xian came a few times, but they left shortly after each time. Xia Ying missed Luo Xian. Meal. What's wrong? Yu Lingfeng finished drinking the soup and noticed that Xia Ying was distracted, so she asked. It's nothing, I miss my parents. Xia Ying said, took the empty bowl from Yu Lingfeng and put it aside. You should be able to go home soon, isn't your movie almost finished? Yu Lingfeng was relieved. Xia Ying suddenly remembered something important, and her face gradually became heavy. She stared at Yu Lingfeng, looking blankly, as if she was hesitant to speak. Yu Lingfeng naturally saw through it at a glance that Xia Ying had something to say to him, so he looked understanding and said with a faint smile on his lips, tell me, what do you want to say? Yu Lingfeng, tomorrow, Jun Chennai and I will have a kiss scene. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 1122. Chapter 1122. I'll think about it. Sure enough, Xia Ying saw that the smile on the corner of Yu Lingfeng's mouth disappeared in a second. Her face darkened bit by bit, and her eyes looking at Xia Ying gradually turned from tender to sharp. Yu Lingfeng raised her eyebrows and asked, a kiss scene? Every word has a thorn in it. Xia Ying suddenly panicked, but the words had already been spoken and she couldn't take them back. What's more, Yu Lingfeng's aggressive eyes were staring at her, waiting for her explanation. That's right, when it comes to filming, Jun Chennai and I, the characters are lovers, so it's inevitable. The more Xia Ying talked, the more hesitant she was, and she didn't understand what her logic was. I told the director, but they refused to delete it. Jun Chennai also tried to tell Jun Chennai, but it was of no use, so. Yu Lingfeng took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and her eyelashes trembled slightly, so this scene must be filmed, right? Xia Ying's breath was getting weaker and weaker, her heartbeat was pounding faster, and her hands hanging down were tugging at the corners of her clothes in panic. Xia Ying was like a prisoner waiting for trial. She lowered her head and waited with bated breath for Yu Lingfeng's words. Yu Lingfeng's eyes opened, and Xia Ying's heart suddenly lifted. What if I say I don't agree? Yu Lingfeng, don't think too much. In fact, it's normal for actors to film kissing scenes. It's just part of the job. Xia Ying hurriedly explained. Yu Lingfeng's fingers on the sofa moved constantly, which made Xia Ying's heart beat faster and faster. I will think about it. Yu Lingfeng's face was expressionless, and what he said made Xia Ying confused. However, Xia Ying breathed a sigh of relief in the end. Then, I'm going to take a shower first. Xia Ying said something in a low voice, then quickly turned around and ran to the bathroom. Yu Lingfeng sat alone on the sofa with a dark face. Xia Ying took the longest bath in so many years. She was afraid to go out and face Yu Lingfeng. Even if Yu Lingfeng finally agreed, he must have been unwilling to do so. Xia Ying didn't want to see Yu Lingfeng angry. So annoying. Xia Ying soaked in the bathtub, then picked up her mobile phone and sent a WeChat message to Ye Xiaoxun. Xiaoxun, you are a nuisance, why did you write a kiss scene for the male and female protagonists? Ye Xiaoxun was typing words at this time. When he saw the cell phone ringing next to him, he glanced at it. After seeing the content of Xia Ying's WeChat, he immediately knew what was going on. It seems that they filmed the kissing scene. In fact, the original work started and ended with kissing scenes and several scenes, but after it was adapted into a movie, only the most classic kissing scene was retained. It was the classic kiss under the peach blossom tree when the hero and heroine finally recognized their feelings and no longer chose to escape. Commonly known as the peach blossom kiss, because when they kissed, a peach blossom happened to fall between their lips. Ye Xiaoxun smiled, and then replied to Xia Ying, I am just the author of the original work, and the film adaptation has nothing to do with me, unjustly accused. Xia Ying snorted, it would be even worse if it were the original work. Yu Lingfeng had to catch her back on the spot. Come on for the kiss scene. Ha ha ha. Ye Xiaoxun even sent the series of expressions gloating about his misfortune. Just as Xia Ying was about to say something, the bathroom door suddenly opened. Xia Ying shrank subconsciously and covered her chest. Yu Lingfeng, what are you doing here? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 1123. Chapter 1123. Why are you complaining? When Xia Ying was changing her clothes, she looked at herself in the mirror with mottled kiss marks all over her body. Thinking of what happened last night, her face turned red and blood dripped. She decided not to make Yu Lingfeng angry easily in the future, it was really terrible. Xia Ying changed into some cover-up clothes, arrived at the shooting location, put on her costume, and when she came out, she happened to meet Jun Chennai unexpectedly. Jun Chennai had no expression on his face and nodded towards Xia Ying. Xia Ying also looked at him and nodded. The first scene today is the kiss scene between Xia Ying and Jun Chennai, Because Feng Zhuili in the original work is a cold-blooded character who kills decisively. He has killed countless people in his life. He is a demon king who is feared by everyone in the world. The only tenderness in his life was given to Yin Wu. And when Yin Wu met Feng Zhuili, it was after she had transformed into a black person. At that time, Yin Wu was a person filled with only hatred. At the beginning of her black transformation, she had already made up her mind not to care about the love between men and women. Unexpectedly, he met Feng Zhuili later. Two cold-blooded people, two big demons, actually fell in love with each other, and at the same time, they were also mortal enemies. So even if they fell in love with each other early on, everyone was holding back, and today's scene was a kiss of love between the two. Jun Chennai and Xia Ying agreed to try to get along as smoothly as possible. This scene is very long, because there is a scene where the two of them express their feelings to each other, and then the last kiss is the end. This section must be completed in one go without interruption, so it tests the actors' acting skills and skills. Xia Ying and Jun Chennai both have good dialogue skills, and they were all recorded live. The previous lines were spoken smoothly. After the director gave a hint, it was time for the final kiss. In the later stage, a peach blossom petal will be placed on it, but during the scene, it will be separated by a piece of paper. Jun Chennai lowered his eyes, the rays of the sun falling on his thick and long eyelashes. Jun Chennai walked closer to Xia Ying step by step. Xia Ying's expression still maintained the characteristics of the character, and she did not show any discomfort. Xia Ying always reminds herself in her heart that she is acting, so that she should not be distracted, and it is best to live her life in one go. Jun Chennai took possession of him and pressed against him gently, and the two of them closed their eyes. At the intersection of light and shadow, there is a bright light. Even though there was a piece of paper between them, that was the closest Jun Chennai was to Xia Ying. Everyone's eyes lit up as they watched. Many of Jun Chennai's admirers were actually able to immerse themselves in it and enjoy it at this moment, instead of being envious and jealous. They actually felt that the scene was particularly beautiful. Although it's just lips touching lips, but being brought into the character makes people feel emotional. The two characters in the characters went through many hardships before they came together. Behind them, there was the opposition and curse of millions of people. But, from today on, no matter what others say, they will never be separated again. Feng Zhuili said to Yin Wu, "No matter it is the end of the world or the end of the sea, as long as you are there, I will come." Yin Wu said to Feng Zhuili, "I thought I could convince the world that I didn't like you, but I couldn't convince myself." Cut. The director shouted loudly, obviously very satisfied with this item. The scene burst into warm applause. Xia Ying lowered her head, then turned and left. Jun Chennai stood there, staring at Xia Ying's back for a while, then pursed his lips and turned around to leave. "I'm so angry, Mr. Jun still kissed Xia Ying." Mo Wenwen complained. Xia Ran raised the corners of his mouth and said disdainfully, "This is just filming, why are you complaining?" End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 1124. Chapter 1124, Save Your Energy. Mo Wenwen was immediately discouraged when Xia Ran said this. Same, since we are the male and female protagonists, isn't it normal to film a kissing scene, but the target is Xia Ying, and she is just not happy. Xia Ran curled her lips slightly and followed Xia Ying with her eyes. Mo Wenwen also noticed it, so she asked curiously, "Sister Xia Ran, do you have any good ideas again?" Every time Xia Ran said nothing but looked at Xia Ying with a sinister smile, nothing good would happen. "No, you wouldn't understand even if I told you." Xia Ran hummed softly, obviously not satisfied with Mo Wenwen's IQ. "There are some things that I just don't want to tell this person. By the way, Sister Xia Ran, some time ago, I thought you were planning to attack Mr. Jun. Mo Wenwen asked softly, but looking at your behavior these days, I don't see anything wrong. Sister Xiaoran, you don't even look down on Mr. Jun, right? As soon as Mo Wenwen mentioned this, Xiaoran's expression suddenly changed, and a cold ray of light suddenly shot towards her. Mo Wenwen was shocked. Sister Xiaoran, what's wrong? She seemed to have said something wrong. Xiaoran looked at her as if he wanted to eat her. Xiaoran didn't say anything after all, but shook his sleeves and left angrily. She gets angry when she talks about this. She has indeed had that thought. If she can gain Jun Cheniai's favor, her future path will be much easier. But some time ago, she took advantage of no one to test Jun Cheniai, and was humiliated by him instead. Jun Cheniai glanced at her disdainfully, the disgust in his eyes almost overflowing from his eyes. Xiaomenjian, you don't think you are disgusting, that's all, you come here to disgust me, I think you are tired of living. He actually called her disgusting. He, how noble is Jun Cheniai? She is just a loser who was deprived of her inheritance rights by the Jun family. Why should she look down on her? At least, she is different from the past. When she rises and gains all the glory in the future, even if Jun Cheniai holds her thigh and begs for her love, she will not look at him. Xiaoran called Xiaonan again. Now that the film is about to be finished, why haven't you found a way to deal with it? Xiaonan sneered, if it's that simple, why haven't you done it yourself? Xiaoran's eyes widened when his thoughts were exposed, and then narrowed for a moment. Xiaonan, now we are all grasshoppers on the same rope. You also said that Xia Ying is our common goal. Now everyone in the crew knows that Xia Ying and I have conflicts. If I act rashly and something happens to her, the first person to be suspicious will be me. I'm not that stupid. How many times have I told you not to act recklessly? If you hadn't been too sharp, who would have known about the conflict between you and Xia Ying? Ask me to be with her day and night and have to endure everything, I can't do it. Xiaoran hung up the phone abruptly. As soon as Xiaoran turned around, she bumped into Xia Ying. There was a faint smile on the corner of Xia Ying's mouth, which made Xiaoran's heart tingle. What are you doing? Xiaoran seemed to have raised his voice to cover up his guilty conscience. Xia Ying didn't hear everything she said on the phone with Xiaonan just now, right? It doesn't matter to her, just listen. Anyway, she has nothing to be afraid of anymore. Xiaoran, let me give you a piece of advice, save your energy. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 1125. Chapter 1125 Flame, Lizard, Blade, Blue Whale. Xia Ying walked towards Xiaoran with piercing eyes. Xiaoran subconsciously took 2 steps back at first, then stood still after reacting. Why should she be afraid? Even if Xia Ying hears the content of the phone call, she has nothing to hide. Anyway, Xia Ying has always known that she was framing her. You have finally gained such a pitiful reputation now. Is it worth it for you to lose your reputation again just to go against me? He, it's not certain who laughs last. Xiaoran's tone was determined, without any hint of cowardice. Then just wait and see. Xia Ying's mouth curved. Xiaoran, I remind you to be careful. You are not the only one who knows how to play tricks. Xiaoran frowned, what do you mean? Xia Ying said nothing more, left a meaningful smile, turned and left. Xiaoran was stunned and thinking about Xia Ying's words. Was Xia Ying planning to strike first? Not long after Rong Ci left China, he received a task assigned to him by the Shadow Hunter organization. It's also very interesting. He has been a member of the Shadow Hunters for so long and has been in vain. Does he think he has been forgotten by the organization? Because he had never been on a mission, Rong Ci had never participated in any of the internal activities of the Shadow Hunters. This time, Rong Ci was a little surprised that he was actually assigned a task. As soon as Rong Ci got out of the car, he found a secluded place and called the other party. "Do I have a companion?" "Yes, they are already waiting for you and they will contact you later." Rong Ci wanted to ask something else, but the caller had already hung up. Not long after, Rong Ci received relevant information on his cell phone. A museum in Europe was stolen and a very important cultural relic was lost. Now it has been determined who stole it. Their task is to find that group of people and bring the cultural relic back safely. Rong Ci curled her lips and smiled. When he was an agent, he did a lot of this kind of thing. However, when Rong Ci saw clearly who he was facing, his smile gradually disappeared. They are the famous gangsters who have been on the run for many years. They have countless killers and their methods are extremely cruel. I don't know how many special police officers have been sacrificed in order to catch them. Rong Ci had a confrontation with them before and almost lost his life. Officer Song was almost killed by them at the beginning. This group of people is famous in the underworld and makes people fearful. Rong Ci did not expect that his first mission as a shadow hunter would be so exciting. Rong Ci's cell phone rang again and received a location message. Rong Ci stopped a car and went to that address. When Rong Ci arrived at that place, there were 4 people waiting for him. The 4 people were neatly dressed in black clothes and had straight faces, as if they were here to collect debts. 2 of them, Rong Ci observed that their marks were behind the ears and behind the neck respectively. They seemed to be outstanding shadow hunters. "Are you Rong Ci?" One of them spoke in a cold voice. Rong Ci nodded briskly. "Fire, lizard, blade, blue whale." At this time, the 4 people suddenly and without warning reported their names from left to right. Rong Ci was still stunned, unable to distinguish or hear anything clearly. They finished speaking as if they were firing machine guns, and then they remained sullen and expressionless. Rong Ci felt that if they were more handsome, he would think there were 4 Yu Lingfeng standing in front of him. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 1126. Chapter 1126, Don't Eat the Food on the Cart. "Ah, it's a pleasure to meet you." Rong Ci smiled stiffly and reached out to shake their hands politely. After all, they would soon be brothers who would live together through life and death together. Who knew that even though Rong Ci acted so enthusiastically, they still turned a blind eye and didn't even glance at him. Rong Ci felt that their cold faces seemed to be saying to themselves, "Childish." Rong Ci's smile retracted bit by bit, and the hand that was hanging awkwardly in the air also silently retracted. "Well, since everyone is so serious, let's prepare a battle plan. Let's find a safe place to discuss this first. According to my investigation, that group of people have been to Paris a few days ago. If they are not in Paris now, they are in other cities in France near Paris. So we start in France. I have acquaintances in France. I'll contact them to see if they have any clues." That. Rong Ci wanted to interrupt, but was interrupted. There seemed to be riots in Paris some time ago. Was it caused by that group of people? Guess so. That we. Rong Ci wanted to interrupt again. Their people are distributed in various countries around the world, but our goal is to find those leaders. We can't catch all the other shrimps. And the cultural relics are in their hands, so we must follow them closely. Didn't we say we need to find a safe place to discuss it? Rong Ci shouted at the top of his voice, and those people immediately stopped talking and all turned to look at Rong Ci. With all his words, he finally found a sense of existence. Are these guys still engaging in character discrimination? Ice Cube Face only communicates with Ice Cube Face? Let's go. One person made a suggestion, and the remaining three followed him neatly and left. Forgotten words. Brothers, am I really on a mission with you? Arrived at the hotel, Rong Ci lay down on the big bed in the presidential suite. But not long after he lay down, there was a knock on the door. Do you need lunch? Rong Ci went over and opened the door, glanced at the food in the trolley, then took a carton of milk, thank you, and closed the door. Rong Ci returned to the room and sat on the sofa. He was about to open the milk carton when he suddenly frowned. Then, Rong Ci took out a packet of white powder from his pocket and poured it into the milk. The milk began to change color, and finally showing a chaotic yellow color. Rong Ci was so excited that he called the group of people, "Don't eat the food on the cart." The person who answered the phone immediately stopped the action of the person next to him. He was opening a pack of biscuits, and one of them had already opened the bottle cap and took a sip of mineral water. Toxic. The man said something, and the drinker immediately ran to the bathroom and started to induce vomiting. Has anyone eaten it? Rong Ci frowned. Hearing the movement over there, it seemed that something was not good. Blade drank water. I am coming over now. Rong Ci hung up the phone and walked out of the door. Rong Ci knocked on the door and Yan Huan opened the door. Only then did some emotion appear on his face. He began to worry about the condition of the blade. Where is he? After Rong Ci came in, he looked around anxiously. I'm here. Hand on the door frame, Dao Feng looked at Rong Ci weakly, his eyebrows drooped, and he looked in bad condition. How do you feel now? Rong Ci asked. I don't feel anything, it just induces vomiting and makes my stomach feel a little queasy. Eat this. Rong Ci took out a small pill and handed it to him. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 1127. Chapter 1127. A king carries 4 bronzes. What's this? Dao Feng's brows furrowed even deeper. He took the pills handed over by Rong Ci and stared at them without putting them in his mouth. Rong Ci curled his lips. What else could it be? It's naturally an antidote. If you take it as soon as possible now, it will still be useful. If it's too late, I won't guarantee whether it will be useful. After hearing what Rong Ci said, Dao Feng immediately put it into his mouth and swallowed it dry. The remaining people looked at Rong Ci with blank faces. Huo asked, how do you know that the things on the cart are poisonous, and do you carry these things with you? Rong Ci turned slightly sideways and looked at them, raising his eyebrows. I didn't expect that. After all, I, Rong Ci, have been an agent for many years, so I still have the sense of precaution. Naturally, I carry these necessary medicines with me. Don't you bring anything with you when you come out? Rong Ci's teasing words made those people lower their heads and look unnatural. Flame coughed a few times and said, we are all shadow hunters who have just passed the exam. We only go out to perform missions very rarely. Okay, I understand. It's okay. Brother Rong will protect you from now on. Rong Ci forcibly inserted himself between them and put his hands on their shoulders, looking familiar. Everyone looked at him. I didn't expect that. I thought you were junior to us, but you are actually already a veteran. Rong Ci chuckled. After all, I used to work for the country. Rong Ci suddenly thought about it, changed the topic, and smiled a little. So you can still be normal people? Just now, each one looked like a robot. I thought this was the characteristic of your shadow hunters, so you thought I was new to shadow hunters and you thought I was a noob, so you were deliberately alienating me. Rong Ci chose his words so clearly that they didn't know how to answer them. That. Flame scratched his head, a little embarrassed. Rong Ci chuckled, forget it, I'm just teasing you. Then Rong Ci, Am I okay? Tao Feng opened his eyes wide and looked at Rong Si eagerly. Rong Si turned around and said, I can't guarantee this. It should be fine. Dao Feng felt uneasy. After all, this was his first mission, and he didn't want to be so glorious without anyone seeing him. It would be too embarrassing. They actually expected that we would go this way, and they actually poisoned us. The lizard touched his chin, thoughtfully. Perhaps, they are already sending people to follow us. Rong Si nodded and became serious, but it's also possible that they just guessed our route. Anyway, this hotel is owned by their people. Flame answered. Rong Si suddenly looked at them straightly. They felt a little uncomfortable being stared at by Rong Si like this. Rong Kai, what are you looking at? I think you betrayed our actions. You can tell that you are a shadow hunter at a glance. Look, lizard and blue whale, your marks are too obvious. And your expressions give people an unfriendly look. A feeling of. After Rong Si made such a comment, several people looked at each other. Blue Whale said with a straight face, then what do you think we should do? Disguise. It seems you know everything. Rong Si spread his hands and said helplessly, didn't your organization train you? Do you need to disguise yourself when you go out to perform tasks? Rong Si suddenly felt like a king, carrying 4 bronzes. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 1128. Chapter 1128. How are you going to compensate me? No, this is the first time we have performed this kind of task, protecting cultural relics or something. As the flames talked, they felt a little weird. It cannot be said that every time they do something bad, they rarely do such things. When we usually go on a mission, we don't need to disguise ourselves and just start fighting. Walk, that's straightforward enough. Rong Si smiled and said, I am used to pretending. It seems that there is a big difference between an agent and a killer. And the thing we are doing today is more of an agent-type task. So, listen. My, that's right. A few people listened in a daze, their eyes wide open, and Rong Si didn't know if they had listened. Did you understand? Give me a response. Rong Si said half-jokingly. I understand, I understand. A few people nodded. Come here and take you to the renovation. Rong Si took them out the door. The film version of The Great Doctor has been finalized. At the finalization banquet, Jun Chennai did not come, and Xia Ying also left early. As for Xiao Ran, he originally planned a plot to frame Xia Ying, but it just fell into place. Xiao Ran looked at Xia Ying's leaving figure with dark eyes. You're lucky this time. Xiao Ran snorted. Sister Xiao Ran, stop looking, let's have a drink. Mo Wenwen handed Xiao Ran the wine. Xiao Ran's expression softened a little, he took the wine and drank it down in one gulp. At this time, the manager of a certain investor saw Xia Ying leaving and gave Xiao Ran a wink, asking for an explanation. Xiao Ran forced out an official smile and walked towards the man with a glass of wine in his hand. Mr. Liu, it didn't work this time, there's still another time. Come, I'll have a drink with you. Don't be angry. Xiao Ran was wearing a low-cut evening dress today. Her already hot figure was so charming that people couldn't take their eyes away at this moment. Mr. Wang's eyes kept lingering on Xiao Ran's chest. He even reached out to touch Xiao Ran's waist and thighs, but Xiao Ran stopped him. Mr. Wang watched Xiao Ran drink the glass of wine. When he raised his head to drink, the corners of his mouth raised, revealing an imperceptible smile. As soon as Xia Ying went out, she saw the tall Yu Lingfeng standing under the street lamp, waiting for him. The light stretched his figure very long. The rich night sky and the bright moonlight shone on Yu Lingfeng's body, adding a sense of coolness and elegance. As soon as Xia Ying saw Yu Lingfeng, her eyes lit up, and then she rushed towards Yu Lingfeng and got into his arms. Yu Lingfeng's windbreaker was not pulled up, but opened just in time to wrap Xia Ying stand up. Xia Ying hugged Yu Lingfeng's waist tightly and rested her head on Yu Lingfeng's chest. Yu Lingfeng smiled softly, "Why do you make it seem like we haven't seen each other for a long time? It's been a long time since we last met." Xia Ying raised her head and complained. Counting the days, it has been half a month. In the past, Yu Lingfeng would come to the set every night to look for Xia Ying. Half a month ago, Yu Lingfeng suddenly said that something happened and he could not come. He took her and kept talking to her for half a month. The month has not come. It just happened that the filming was wrapping up today, and Yu Lingfeng told Xia Ying that she was waiting for her outside, so how could she still eat the wrapping up feast? After confirming his intention, he quickly came out to find Yu Lingfeng. Yu Lingfeng reached out and ruffled Xia Ying's hair, with a face filled with affection. "My fault. Then how are you going to compensate me?" Xia Ying said angrily, raising her head and staring at Yu Lingfeng with a pair of bright eyes like stars. Yu Lingfeng curled her lips. "It depends on you, what kind of compensation you want." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 1129. Chapter 1129. Everyone has the responsibility to defend the planet. Xia Ying raised her head, rolled her eyes, and smiled sweetly. "Let's go watch a movie." Yu Lingfeng nodded. "Yeah. I want to eat the food you cook." Yu Lingfeng agreed, then thought about it again. "Don't you like my cooking?" Xia Ying has always disliked that the food on their planet is too bland and tastes strange, and she has never been able to accept it. "But I just want to eat. If I eat too much, it doesn't feel so bad." Xia Ying smiled lightly, and Yu Lingfeng reached out and rubbed her head. "Okay." Xia Ying and Yu Lingfeng cuddled together and went to the nearest cinema. Xia Ying and Yu Lingfeng rarely went out to watch movies. Xia Ying liked them, but Xia Ying felt that Yu Lingfeng didn't seem to like movies that much. The main reason is that Yu Lingfeng pays too much attention to logic when watching movies. Not only does he look heavy every time he watches a movie, but he also criticizes the logic of the movie with Xia Ying after watching it. Xia Ying felt that watching movies was originally an enjoyable thing, but every time she went with Yu Lingfeng, it felt like it had changed. Over time, Xia Ying rarely asked Yu Lingfeng to watch movies together. When a new movie came out, Xia Ying had no choice but to call Mu Niankai and the others. This time, Xia Ying was smart and chose a science fiction movie to watch. Firstly, Yu Lingfeng was interested in this kind of film. Secondly, Xia Ying thought, there shouldn't be anything to be picky about, right? Who knows, Xia Ying still underestimated Yu Lingfeng. Xia Ying likes to watch movies, and she covers a wide range of movies. There are basically no restrictions on the subject matter. As long as it is a good movie, she likes to watch it. So even though most girls don't like science fiction movies, Xia Ying still enjoys them. Especially after getting to know Yu Lingfeng, Xia Ying felt the wonders of the universe and time and space even more. After watching the movie, Xia Ying asked Yu Lingfeng's opinion enthusiastically. Yu Lingfeng frowned and commented very seriously, the scene was not bad, but the details were still not handled well. In a real interstellar battlefield, things are changing rapidly, and there is simply not so much time to hesitate and think about strategies. The only purpose is to use all your strength to kill the opponent, even if you sacrifice your own life. After all, there is no such thing as the protagonist's aura on the real battlefield. Xia Ying listened to Yu Lingfeng's indignant words, and then raised her head to observe Yu Lingfeng's expression. Yu Lingfeng's eyes were filled with luster, his brows were resolute, and his lips were pursed tightly, as if he felt something. Yu Lingfeng Xia Ying tugged on Yu Lingfeng's sleeves, raised her head and asked him, "Did you often fight when you were on your planet?" Yu Lingfeng nodded and looked forward. "Then, are you a general?" Xia Ying asked again. Yu Lingfeng lowered his eyes and looked at her. "Everyone has the responsibility to defend the planet. Not just the royal family, but every citizen must step forward when needed." Xia Ying listened to Yu Lingfeng's words and nodded in understanding. "You said you accidentally arrived on Earth during the Star Wars. Well, you are not on your planet now. If war breaks out again on your planet, will you go back?" Xia Ying's words made Yu Lingfeng's pupils dilate instantly and she paused. Xia Ying was stunned for a moment, seeing Yu Lingfeng suddenly standing there and not walking away, so she asked, "Yu Lingfeng, what's wrong?" End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 1130. Chapter 1130, Could there be something wrong with Yu Lingfeng's body? Why didn't he think of this? Perhaps the abnormality in his watch was due to the summons from his home planet. When he left, the situation on his home planet was turbulent, the royal family was in riots, and the throne was in danger. Time passes much faster on the Earth than on his home star. Although he has been on the Earth for several years, it can be converted into the time of his home star, which is only a few days. At this time, the home planet hurriedly summoned him, and his watch was affected. Perhaps it was because the riot had not been eliminated, or it had worsened, so he needed to go back. Thinking of this, Yu Lingfeng covered his heart, feeling confused for a moment. Whether he is willing to leave or not, he must go back eventually, otherwise once the time on the watch is up, he will die on Earth. Furthermore, as His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, his own planet is in danger, and he is even more obligated. "Yu Lingfeng, what's wrong?" Xia Ying was a little anxious. Yu Lingfeng suddenly seemed to be a different person. His whole face was lifeless, like a puppet with strings pulled out of his soul. "Fine." Yu Lingfeng regained consciousness, showed a forced smile to comfort Xia Ying, and then held Xia Ying's hand. "Let's go back." Xia Ying was stunned, and Yu Lingfeng's hand suddenly felt terribly cold. When they returned to the castle, Yu Lingfeng went to the kitchen to cook. For the first time, Xia Ying did not go over to play with Yu Lingfeng. Instead, she sat thoughtfully on the sofa in the living room alone and called 11 Ju. 11 Ju is not in the castle at the moment, and Xia Ying doesn't know where he has gone. Xia Ying always feels that the two of them are hiding something from her. 11 Ju answered the phone shortly after. 11 Ju, where are you?" Xia Ying tried her best to soothe her emotions and calm herself down. "Oh, I have something to do these days and won't be able to come. I heard from the master that your movie has been completed." "Congratulations." Xia Ying's brows darkened a bit. She suddenly felt that the other party was also deliberately concealing her emotions. From the closer listening, she felt that something was wrong. This is a very strong intuition, and Xia Ying's intuition has always been accurate. "Zihu, Yu Lingfeng has been acting strange recently. Did something happen?" Whether 11 Ju is willing to tell her or not, Xia Ying can only hope to learn something from 11 Ju's mouth. No, maybe the master is too tired during this period. Kinshaside has been chasing closely lately, and the master is harassed by them from time to time. 11 Ju was still talking, but Xia Ying's thoughts had already drifted into the distance. "It's not like this, it must not be because of this." Xia Ying chatted with 11 Ju for a few words, then Xia Ying hung up, and then called Officer Song. Officer Song was on a mission and did not answer the phone. Xia Ying was a little decadent. She put down her phone and leaned on the sofa. She closed her eyes and tried to breathe calmly, but found that it was useless. Instead, she became more and more confused. Yu Lingfeng always said that he would not hide anything from her, but every time something happened, he never told her. Is there something wrong with Yu Lingfeng's health? Xia Ying remembered that Yu Lingfeng said that she would never get sick, but last time, Yu Lingfeng suddenly fainted on her sofa, and her body was so cold. Just now, she suddenly became so cold. Could Yu Lingfeng be sick? He didn't want to worry himself, so he never told him. Was 11 Ju going out to find a cure for Yu Lingfeng? The more Xia Ying thought about it, the more headache she got. She vaguely seemed to hear something coming. End of this chapter.